The topic of today's webinar is securing remote workers. And obviously with everything that's going on today, this is a concern for a lot of people. And one of the key tools available now to achieve this is multi-factor authentication. But first, just a quick introduction to Next I.T. We are an end-to-end technology solution provider. We focus on technology solutions that make business sense for small and mid-sized organizations. We've been serving Michigan and the Midwest since 2001 with multiple offices throughout the state. And with us today is Caroline Argudo from Duo, which is actually now a part of Cisco Systems. And here are some of the things that she's going to be covering today in the presentation. And then we'll be offering some free tools for this at the end as well. So with that, I will hand it over to Caroline.
Thank you, Don. And thanks everyone for joining. It's been a true pleasure being part of this monthly webinar and working with the Next I.T team. As Don mentioned, I'm going to be covering, explaining why passwords are no longer enough and why we have to start moving to more of a zero trust policy. And we'll get to what that means here shortly. And how two-factor authentication, specifically Duo, will help you guys achieve a more secure remote workforce, as well as prevent and lower credential theft. Perfect. So just a little bit about myself. I work for Duo Security, of course, now a part of Cisco. I'm a trusted access specialist, and I support our partners in the region. So I work alongside with our partners. We enable them and also help them push Duo forward to their customers. So with that being said, I want to quickly outline why we're all here. And that's because cloud and BYOD are transforming IT and already have. So what that means is 10 years ago, everything used to be in one core network, meaning that everything, meaning endpoints, users, applications, and servers was behind the firewall. And that made sense before cloud and BYOD because there was no sort of cloud applications that users had to access. So now that the perimeter has changed, we're looking at a hybrid perimeter with remote employees, of course. Now we're definitely experiencing that more than ever. Vendors and contractors, and this hybrid cloud of on-prem applications and mostly cloud-based applications like Office 365. And these users, these remote users specifically, are not only using corporate issued devices or corporate devices like cell phones and computers, but they're using personal ones as well. So that gets us to protect this perimeter because it's a broader perimeter. We can't define it. And that means that we're at a higher risk of a breach. And passwords are not enough. A lot of people out there, I tend to fall into this category. Well, back in the day I did, now I definitely don't. But a lot of people reuse their passwords. And they use weak passwords, which means that your company is vulnerable to phishing attacks. And your staff, especially remote employees, are at risk. And passwords are just not enough anymore. We can't just have a simple password or even a strong password. Some of our credentials, even if we do our best to be creative with our passwords, are already in the dark web. So we have to think outside of the box and protect that remote access because the majority of breaches happen via credentials being compromised and devices being compromised. So as you see here, and we always take it from our Verizon report, and it shows pretty much the same number every year. But 84% of credentials or breaches are involving credentials and devices. And we'll get to why both of those are with Duo, both username and password theft or credential theft and device compromise. Just a quick example to throw out there. I'm sure you guys are sick of hearing these in the news or have read up on some of these, but these are big companies that are being attacked. So Google, Target, they were both attacked through an HVAC vendor. So just that one person was the end to their entire corporate network. And these are just the stories that we hear, right? There are smaller companies or medium-sized companies that are being attacked, and actually those are the ones that are most at risk. We don't hear about them, but it happens every single day. So we overall just need a better system. We can't just protect applications behind the firewall because the firewall is less defined. We don't have everything within a castle where we're just protecting the entryway. We have to protect all users and check them regardless of if they're passing primary credential, and we have to verify that they are who they say they are across every application and across every device. So making sure that everything is trusted, everyone is trusted before they access all your applications. And this is just a funny example. I actually just rewatched this movie, but I'm gonna get challenged with Duo each and every time. And I think I skipped ahead. Sorry about that. Each and every time, or I'm gonna get challenged by the liquor store each and every time I try to buy beer. Because here in Texas, for example, we have a rule that anyone under 50 years old has to get their IDs checked. So why are we not applying the same model to our corporate network and our private information? So that's where Duo comes in. We were founded in 2009 out of Ann Arbor. We were acquired by Cisco, and our mission is to create an easy to use 2FA tool. So we don't use any OTP codes or any sort of hardware tokens that make it clumsy and hard for the end user. Our goal is to make it easy via this cloud-based 2FA solution. So with that being said, the last picture showed you a Duo app notification, and you can see that here as well. But we do offer a lot of different flexible authentication methods for users to use depending on what each of them like. So I myself have a wearable, and I also have a hardware or a YubiKey that I put on my computer, so a U2F in that case. So I can add unlimited devices, a tablet as well if I were to get one and add it to my username. And here are this is an entire list of what you guys can use. So push is our most common way to authenticate because it's the easiest, it's the most secure. It also can go to your Apple Watch, which I use all the time. We also have SMS or text message, phone calls, whether it's to your cell phone or your landline. And all of our partners and their customers get free telephony credits as well. So if that's something that comes up, just know that you're not paying for those text messages or phone calls if you're using your personal device. And also U2Fs. So that includes YubiKeys, Yubico, for example, and hardware tokens if you have somebody that's a little bit more old school and they prefer to carry those around. So now we're gonna get into the Duo Push demo, just to give you an idea and a visual of what it looks like to authenticate from that end user perspective. We're gonna look at an OA example. So the user is entering their email and their password and they're signing in. As soon as they pass primary authentication, the Duo authentication prompt will come up. They will just verify that the device is correct and then select their method of authentication. In this case, I'm gonna send myself a push. It's gonna come to my phone as a Duo mobile request, and I'm simply just approving it. And as soon as I approve that, I'm into my email. So it's very easy, very seamless, regardless of the application, whether it's email, in the cloud, VPN, Windows Logon, or RDP. And this will highlight just the variety of different applications that we can protect. It's a very small list. I always like to say that because we have over 2,000 integrations that are made possible with Duo. But this gives you a good visual of the different categories that each of them can fall under. So whether it's the Microsoft suite, whether it's a VPN or a cloud-based application or a completely on-premise application, there's different integrations for each of them that are easy. We also have single sign-on. So if your company is looking for a simple portal, as you see here on the screen, that the user can authenticate into and then have all of their applications within that single pane of glass, that is also included in Duo MFA, Duo Access, and Duo Beyond. Now, I showed you the credential piece of Duo, but more than just checking the box for 2FA, we are also increasing your visibility into the endpoints or devices that your company is allowing to enter into these applications. So you're going to get a full catalog view of all of these managed and unmanaged devices across all of your applications to get a better view of that security posture of your company. So here's another visual. It's going to break it down by operating system. So whether they're running an out-of-date Mac OS or Windows, you know, over the holidays, if your kids are at your parents' house and they're logging into grandma's computer and it's running a 2010 Internet Explorer, they won't be able to access that, or your users won't be able to access those applications because they're using an out-of-date software. That applies with browsers as well. We use Chrome and we require Chrome to give us a warning whenever we're running an out-of-date Chrome software. And that can also apply to Safari and Firefox as well. And then we have plugins. So Java and Flash are really, really popular because you guys have probably read a lot of articles of how those can be compromised if you don't update those softwares. So overall, you can enforce various different policies depending on what you're looking to accomplish. So whether it's location-based, if you want 2FA to only come up when the user is outside of their corporate network or their office. In this case, the majority of users are, so that would be definitely a good policy to enforce. Out-of-date browsers and software, of course, and then jailbroken devices. So if a user, if they lose their phone and their phone is jailbroken, you can block those jailbroken devices as well, and even require a user to have a password on their cell phones, which is really important. So again, we're checking the box for two important things. The first one is phishing attacks. So credentials being compromised. You know, a couple weeks ago, I got a push notification to my phone that somebody was trying to access my LastPass. And I was not, you know, it was after hours. I think it was a weekend. I was not logging into my LastPass to, you know, for work related purposes. So I was able to identify that my credentials were compromised, and I was able to immediately send that over to our security team, and they were able to look into it right away. So if I didn't have Duo in front of my password manager, they would have gone in, and I store everything in there. I think I even store my mom's social security number. So that would have been really bad. So yeah, we checked the box for phishing, credential theft, and then we also reduce the attack of account takeovers, and we're protecting those devices regardless of where the company is accessing. So with that, I know we just have about 10 minutes left, and I wanted to make sure that we have some time to answer your questions. I know I went through it quite fast, but hopefully you got a great idea of how Duo makes it not only easy for the user, but it's powerful. 2FA is a powerful tool to enforce and use, especially now with your remote workforce and increasing amount of users that are outside of your network. And really, that is how it is every day, regardless of how, the world is, because technically all users are remote workers, right? Because they're accessing applications that are not in your corporate network. So hopefully this gives you a good idea. I really appreciate your time. And now I'm going to pass it over to Don and team to read off some of your questions.
Thanks, Carolyn. Yeah, I'm going to open it up for the Q&A session now. Do we have any questions there in the chat room, John?
Yeah, hi, Don. This is John from Traverse City Next I.T office, and can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah, we've got a couple of quick questions. I want to thank everybody for hanging in for this first webinar on dual multi-factor authentication, and I think they're mostly towards the product. So if we can answer from Duo, Caroline, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Person asked, what if someone doesn't have their phone that they use for their dual authentication, right? If they've lost it or misplaced it, how is that quickly replaced?
Yes, so that is a very good question. We get that a lot, and it's a simple answer. So if the user does not have a secondary device, as you remember, you can add unlimited devices like a YubiKey or a tablet or a landline. If they can't select from a secondary device, or if that device has not been set up or available, then they can quickly reach out to your help desk. Within the Duo authentication prompt, you can customize it to include either a phone number or an email for the user to reach out to get a bypass code. So we generate bypass codes extremely fast, and they're very easy to use. You can have those expire within a couple of hours or a couple of minutes, and then the user will just enter that bypass code into the application and get in that way. So that's definitely not a problem.
Great, yeah, that makes sense. If you don't have your phone, there's no second authentication, right? Another user asked, does that push feature work with all apps?
Yes, it does. There are, I don't want to get into it, but there's just 2, I believe, that do not support Duo Push. Most of those are because the application itself is not fully open, or it's a third-party app that's not available to the public. So for example, I use Duo to protect my personal accounts, including Amazon, Instagram, Facebook, etc. And those allow for you to use Duo, but they're not integrated in a way for the push to come through whenever you log in, because they're personal. You're protecting those personal credentials or application.
Right.
So with that,
got a couple more real quick.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Does Duo track when the users connect with like a time date stamp in a main dashboard somewhere?
Yes, so you will get an authentication log that includes the username, the time of authentication, the application that they were logging into, and what method of secondary auth they used. So whether it's a text message or a phone call or the Duo push, that will all be listed in an easy to view way. And then you can also download the full authentication log as well if you're looking for more of a backdated log.
Great. Just one last question. It seems like more of a clarification, right? What about Authenticator app or text to cell phone, those are pretty easy to use. Maybe recover what devices we can use for Duo.
Yes, so text message, of course, those will always work. You can always select that from the Duo authentication prompt. Some companies even make it unavailable. So I do like to highlight that it is flexible. Whether you want to include all the methods or take some of those out, that's up to you. Authenticator app, we can link up to any, Google Authenticator and then replace it with Duo by scanning that QR code. But I think what you guys mean by that is if Duo has a soft token, that soft token is available through the app, but it does have to be linked to a secondary.
Yeah, and that's what we use here also, Caroline, at Next I.T. is I've got the app on my phone with a couple of different softwares that I log into. I'll have to enter a code and I get it from the app, or it just sends me a push and I verify that I'm in, and that seems to really work well. Really been happy with the Duo authentication that I've been using here at Next I.T.
Yeah, the interface is great. It's easy. We have a lot of different companies, whether it's, big public universities, Kayak. You guys are free to look through our website and look through some of the use cases that are out there, companies vouching for us. And then, of course, if the Duo push is not something that you guys want to use, there's definitely other options that are available.
All right, that's all the questions we have. Back to you, Don.
All right. Well, good. Lastly, I just wanted to talk quickly about the free tools I mentioned earlier. We're offering a free 30-day trial for an unlimited number of users for Duo's trusted access licenses to try it out. We'll be sending out a brief survey after today's presentation with the option to sign up for that. And thank you again for taking time out of your day to join us today. And take care, and everyone stay safe out there.
Yes, I'll echo that. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. It was a true pleasure to be a part of this webinar, and I'm excited to partner with Next I.T on how to offer Duo in a secure and fast way to all of their customers. So thanks for joining this morning, and I hope everyone stays safe.
Thanks. Bye.